Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa, France 24's program focused on the continent. I'm Charlie James, and here's what's ahead. A million-man march against the Algerian president. Protesters seek to bring down their nation's entire political system as Bouteflika barely clings to power. A disease outbreak intensifies the humanitarian disaster in Mozambique. Survivors of Cyclone Idai now face a spike in cholera cases as health workers desperately try to stop the spread. And Pope Francis to visit Morocco this weekend. The pontiff says he comes to the Muslim-majority country as a pilgrim of peace. France 24 shows you how Catholics there are preparing. The biggest protest yet in Algeria. Unofficial estimates put Friday's crowds in the capital at about 1 million people. 1 million people who came out to once again call for President Abdelaziz Bouteflika to step down and for the government to be completely overhauled. This was the 6th Friday in a row of mass anti-government protests, but the first since a string of loyalists deserted the president and called for him to resign. That did not satisfy activists, though. They see it as an attempt by Bouteflika's entourage to salvage their own power. Let's cross now to Algiers, where our correspondent, Monsef Aykassi, is reporting on this story. Monsef, tell us more about this huge turnout. Was this expected?
It was, yes, actually, you just said it. Hundreds of thousands of people have taken to the streets in Algeria today to demand the resignation of President Abdelaziz Bouteflika. Estimates say crowds in the capital in Algiers downtown reached 1 million. It's the sixth successive Friday of mass anti-government protests in the country, and Algerian police at the moment fired tear gas at crowds as they attempted to reach the presidency. But there were no incidents today. Marches were peaceful. There has been a call to respect that sovereignty of the Algerian people in accordance with Article 7 of the Algerian Constitution that stipulates that national sovereignty belongs exclusively to the people.
Now, it seems that nothing the president or those close to him have done has been able to satisfy the protesters, even a little bit. What message does this show of force by protesters today send?
You know, protesters who were in the streets didn't stop repeating that they have only one word today to express it, and this word wants that all the gang must go immediately. They seem not to be really impressed by the suggestion of General Ahmed Gaid Salah to trigger Article 102 of the Constitution. The majority of the protesters today were young, and they are not really involved in political parties, and they say they are not interested in the departure of Mr. Bouteflika, only to see the power transferred to these formers. They want the system to leave. So it's too early to say what is going to happen, but probably we will have some other answers tomorrow because there is no reaction for the moment by the government or even any political party, except hundreds of thousands of people across the country who have the same demands. They want the system to leave.
Monsef Aykassi in Algiers, thank you so much for your reporting. 2 weeks after Cyclone Idai devastated Mozambique, authorities and aid workers are scrambling to avert an epidemic. 139 cases of cholera have been confirmed. It's a waterborne disease that can kill within hours if not treated. Shirley Sipon tells us about the efforts to stop the bacteria's spread.
These people are referred to as suspected cholera cases. They have some of the symptoms like severe diarrhea. Health personnel have placed them at a distance from other people whose homes have been destroyed in this camp in Beira. NGOs have dealt with cholera outbreaks in other countries before, and Mozambique authorities say they're ready to fight the bacteria.
We're trying to avoid an outbreak of cholera at the moment. We expected this, we were prepared for this, we have doctors in place, so this is what we're doing at the moment.
Mozambique is preparing to vaccinate people at risk in days to come. 900,000 vaccines are expected. They'll protect the population for 3 months. Of course, the key to eradicating cholera is hygiene. The bacteria spreads because sanitation systems, latrines, collapsed in contaminated water supplies. To stop the disease, temporary sanitation must be set up and water must be distributed. On these images, the Portuguese army has brought a different solution: purifiers. This machine turns dirty water clean. These residents will no longer have to drink from this muddy river. But not everyone is this lucky. Some areas are still isolated 2 weeks after the cyclone, and their residents' fate and state of health is still unknown.
Next to Madagascar, where the bitterness of French decolonization still causes distrust towards the nation's Senegalese population. 72 years ago, Senegalese infantrymen took part in a violent colonial crackdown on Malagasy farmers, and the memory of that event lives on. But a school handball tournament between the two communities is trying to change minds. France 24's Gaël Borja reports.
On the notorious night of March 29, 1947, Rakutni Ryan was 23 years old. He was among the rebels who attacked French barracks. They had to put an end to colonization by any means. The gunshots, shouts, he remembers everything.
Each night, we would attack military barracks in Moramanga. We would play drums, we had battle cries, we would shoot each other.
To repress the rebellion, 18,000 troops were sent as a backup by France. Most of them were Senegalese infantrymen fighting for French colonists. 70 years later, Rakutni Rhine is still haunted by their faces.
They had powerful guns and were very well equipped. They were stronger than Malagasy people, and they were scary.
Between 10,000 and 100,000 Malagasy people died during this colonial war. Madagascar became independent 13 years later, in 1960. Since then, the Senegalese are considered by Malagasy people to be under the thumb of France. To help make up for a painful past and to educate young people, Senegal's consulate organizes a school handball tournament every year to bring together Senegalese and Malagasy teenagers.
This tournament is about sport and education. We educate the children about 1947. We were victims like Malagasy people. No one asked us anything. We were brought here and given guns.
This education has borne fruit little by little, even if this year there is no Senegalese team for a lack of people.
I think this image of Senegalese people is not fair. We live in a new era. Things have changed. We have to love and help each other.
A step toward reversing the bitterness of the past, but still a long way to go, as there is no local history book in state schools for lack of money.
And finally, Pope Francis is visiting Morocco this weekend. The Catholic leader will celebrate Sunday Mass, travel to a migrant center, and visit an Imam training institute. On the eve of his visit, the pontiff delivered a message to the nation.
Caro popolo del Marocco.
Dear people of Morocco, Assalamu alaikum. Soon I shall be arriving for a 2-day visit to your country, and I thank God for granting me this opportunity. Following in the footsteps of my predecessor, St. John Paul II, I come as a pilgrim of peace and of fraternity in a world which has great need of both.
And the people of Morocco are gearing up for Pope Francis's arrival, particularly the country's small but diverse Catholic community. Our reporter, Josh Vardy, shows us the preparations.
Here at the Cathedral of Saint-Pierre in Rabat, they're putting the finishing touches to preparations for Pope Francis's arrival. As a main port of entry into Europe, Morocco has recently welcomed and regularized 50,000 migrants, with many Catholics among them.
Now the Catholic Christian population is mostly African. In our communities, there are more men than women, more young people than adults, and the majority are people of color.
The Casablanca choir is saying its last Lord's Prayer in Arabic before the big papal mass, which will bring together 500 chorists from all over the kingdom.
It feels like a blessing. It won't happen 1,000 times in our lives, so we're preparing well, but we're super happy. It's like a grace for us to receive the Pope here.
Coming together around religion is also a way for people to find solidarity and support. Believers are attending meetings in greater numbers. At Easter, 42 people are due to be baptized.
It's a good thing for those of us who are in a foreign Muslim-majority country to familiarize ourselves with our religion. So I think it's a really good thing to have a Catholic church in Morocco.
The church has been here since the 11th century, but diplomatic relations between the Vatican and Morocco began in 1976. Abdelouhab Malmi was its second ambassador here.
The interest of this visit is for Morocco to maintain its image of a moderate country of dialogue and tolerance. The Vatican sees a chance in Morocco for interreligious dialogue.
Mass here has not been as young and dynamic for 10 years. These sub-Saharan believers now settled in the country are breathing new life into the Moroccan church, which has an estimated total of around 35,000 followers here and an average age below 35.
That's all for this edition of Eye on Africa, but do stay with us here on France 24. There's more news coming up next.
The world is ever changing. The news doesn't wait. That's why at France 24, we'll always be there to help make sense of world events. For the best international coverage, 24 hours a day, no matter what, France 24 is with you everywhere, all the time.